Hello everyone, my name is Shannon Kennedy and I am the, let me try that again. Hello everyone, my name is Shannon Kennedy and I am the resident polyglot and language expert here at Drops, and I'm going to be answering a few of your questions. So let's dive right in. How do you learn two similar languages without mixing them up? For example, Portuguese or Italian. If you'd like to learn two similar languages at once, the best thing you can do is deliberate practice between them. The first thing I recommend doing is to avoid studying them in one sitting. If you'd like to study both every day, make sure you have a break between them. It'll make it easier to separate them by giving them literal separation. Lindsay of Lindsay Does Languages also recommends studying them in different places to give them spatial distance as well. From there, you want to set aside specific times to compare them side by side, practice switching between them, and go over where they're similar and where they're different. Doing this will help you keep them separate. Is journaling effective? Journaling can be an effective way to learn a new language. It's production, writing, so it's a great way to make the language your own. There are a few different ways you can journal. One is to journal exclusively in the language. This gives you the time you need to think about what you'd like to write, look words up, and if you journal digitally, you can even share your entries online to get corrections from native speakers. italki is one place you can do this. Personally, I use my language journal as the place where I just take notes. I write down questions I still have at the end of a study session, and as something I can look back at just to see how far I've come in a language. Which languages do you speak and how many? So I speak 13 languages at varying levels. My native language, as you can probably tell, is English. After that, there's French, Mandarin Chinese, Croatian, Japanese, Russian, Spanish, Italian, German, Hindi, Korean, Hebrew, and Hungarian, and then English makes 13. Do you ever mix up languages? I do. When a language is new to me, I often use words from other languages I know without realizing that I've done so. But sometimes, in the hope that the word is the same or similar in that language, is the reason that I do it. Hungarian and Japanese, for example, have the advantage that many words are similar to in English, or even if there's a native equivalent, there's a borrowed version of words that I can use. For example, in Hungarian, I can say saxofonozni for to play saxophone. So I still have that root saxophone in the word. And I can use taekwondozni to do taekwondo. In Japanese, I can say video gameu for video games. Because this is the case for some of the languages that I study, and I can do this, create Japanese versions of English words or Hungarian versions of English words. I find that I sometimes try to do this in languages where this isn't a language feature, and so it doesn't always work. What motivates you to learn several different languages? Work is definitely my primary motivation. In addition to working for Drops, I'm also a musician. This means I get the opportunity to travel quite a bit. The companies I work for often ask if I can do presentations in certain languages, so that's part of my motivation. But when I travel, I often like to learn a bit of the local language because I found that doing so makes my travel that much more enjoyable. I often have the chance to get to know people and do things I otherwise wouldn't get to do. For the most part, these two things are my primary motivation. What are the best tips for retention? The best tip I can give you for retention is to be consistent in your learning. This is why I love Drops Streaks feature. It's that little bit of accountability that helps you keep coming back to your studies each and every day. If you study consistently, you're getting constant exposure to your new language, and this adds up over time, making it all seem more familiar and easier to hang on to. And the longer you go between study sessions, the more review you have to do, which means the less new learning you get. And so if you're constantly spending time with your language, you do less review, you get to do new learning, and what you've already learned in the past, you get to hang on to. Have you ever studied multiple languages at once? I have, and it's something I'm actually currently doing. What I try not to do is study a new language and other languages. Whenever I take on a new language, I dedicate at least 3 months to that language. For example, 90 days with drops, and that language only. I hit pause on the other languages, knowing I can go back to them after those first few months are over. When I'm not learning a new language, I'm often focused on around 3 of my languages, doing regular lessons, reading and studying new words with drops to continue building my vocabulary. My progress is slower for each language, doing it this way, but I'm still making steps forward in each language, and personally, I'm willing to exchange faster progress in one language for slower progress in several languages. How do I learn Korean grammar and sentence construction? I recommend finding a good Korean tutor. italki and Preply are 2 great places to start. Beyond that, there are several fantastic resources for Korean learners ready to take on grammar. Talk to Me in Korean and Go Billy Korean have tons of free videos on YouTube teaching Korean grammar, so you can start there. And finally, there's a fantastic website called howtostudykorean.com that I also recommend. So thank you all for submitting your questions. I enjoyed answering them. If you would like to start learning a new language, Drops is a really fun way to do that with its engaging visuals, no typing, and just 5 minutes a day, you can be well on your way to learning a new language.